On the exits from Manchester United, we've seen a report of a £20 million bid from Roma for Jadon Sancho. It does feel, by reading the various posts and articles, another one that you dropped yesterday. So thank you very much for that, Ben. How's that progressing? Is that feeling like it might go through?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on Sancho, which is a strange thing that we found all summer, where a lot of good clubs in top leagues, some of which have got Champions League football, have chased after him, and yet they haven't been able to agree terms. I think the Manchester United part is easy, although the final structure is going to play a part, because Roma have kind of come with this permanent transfer offer of 20 million, and then they've said, maybe we structure it with a loan and a conditional obligation, possibly a bit like Jadon Sancho when he was at Chelsea, with an override fee. And of course, Manchester United want a permanent exit in some capacity. So it's not just the 20 million number, which I'm told is going to be acceptable to Manchester United. It's the structure of the deal. And Jadon Sancho still hasn't decided. I wonder whether at this point he's just waiting and seeing whether there's a merry-go-round at the end of the window and other options also present themselves. So there's a realistic chance this one happens. The Manchester United side should not be a problem, although they'll have to lock in a final structure. But Man United basically said the conditional obligation for Sancho when he was at Chelsea was 25 million. Chelsea overrode that, sent him back and paid 5 million. And then at the beginning of the window, they were happy to do it for 20 million, which is Roma's offer. And actually 20 million euros for a straight permanent transfer is the asking price. So Roma can buy him now if they get Sancho buy-in, and maybe even get it a bit less than 20 million, or they can try and do their loan with conditional obligation, and then it's a bit higher because maybe the obligation isn't guaranteed, because conditional obligation basically means option that becomes an obligation under certain circumstances. So it doesn't quite have the same guarantee of permanence. Maybe he has to play 20 games. Maybe he has to do certain things in relation to team performance, like qualify for Champions League next season. And as a consequence, you always go higher with a buy option or a conditional obligation, because you never know, it might not end up becoming permanent, and then you're back with the player again. So that's maybe the only nagging doubt at the Manchester United end. But Roma have met the valuation, and I'm not expecting club to club to be a problem if Sancho agrees and Roma are still waiting for his final decision.
And what of Garnacho? Because we've obviously, and I say this because United fans want more money than Chelsea are prepared to pay. Chelsea want the fee to come down. We've just seen the Championship player who in Hutchinson go for £37 million. And United fans are saying, look, we get Chelsea don't want to pay 50 million. We understand that the player only wants one club. But also United fans feel that 25 to 30 million, which Chelsea supporters are quoting, it should be the price. It almost seems disrespectful when you see a player like Hutchinson sold for £37 million. How is this? How are the negotiations progressing? Are we close to a breakthrough? What's the latest of Garnacho to Chelsea, Ben?
Yeah, Garnacho wants Chelsea. He doesn't want to stay at Man United. Man United want an exit. Time running out in the window. Chelsea are also focused on outgoings. So if, for example, they're to sign Xavi Simons and Alejandro Garnacho, then they also need to think about Christopher Nkunku, who's now in talks with Bayern Munich, and also Nico Jackson. It'll be really interesting to see where he ends up. I was saying yesterday on a stream that, yes, you've got Newcastle, who obviously are confident of also finalising Yoane Wissa, but I'm told there's a new Premier League club at the table, and I'll have more on that in the coming days. So there's actually 2 Premier League clubs that could end up bidding late for Nico Jackson. And I sense that Chelsea are thinking, if we can get those out, then we fully satisfy our A-list requirements for Champions League registration. Because remember, as part of the UEFA settlement, Chelsea need a net even or net positive balance. Otherwise, they can only register players on the A-list from last season's Conference League, which means all the new signings can't be registered for Champions League football. Chelsea are not panicked. They've got lots of other outgoings, the Sterlings, the Chilwells, the Disassis, the Vegas, etc. But they need a little bit of money in to satisfy the UEFA financial body. And if they get that, then that also then allows them to add Alejandro Garnacho and very possibly Xavi Simons. We also have a delay here because Chelsea know the later it gets done, the more the price is likely to drop, because Man United don't want a scenario where Garnacho stays because they view him as surplus to requirements. And that's kind of the difference. That I understand why people will say, if Amari Hutchinson is 37.5 million or Dango Ouattara is 42.5 million, how could a player like Alejandro Garnacho be 30 million? But it's all informed by how much does the club want to sell? How much is the relationship broken potentially between manager and player or club and player? How late you are in the window? And the buyer always gains a little bit of ascendancy at this time if they know the player wants out and they know that the selling club wish to do a deal. Whereas with Amari Hutchinson, Ipswich didn't want to sell. So therefore, if you want that deal, you might have to pay above the odds to get it done. Otherwise, they shut the door and think, great, we've got Amari Hutchinson in the Championship. He's going to help us come straight back up at the first time of asking. So this is why prices fluctuate. And if we were midway through the window, I would say it's fair to use all of these deals as yardsticks. But late in the window, it's kind of skewed and every deal is a bit of an anomaly. And as a result, prices are not particularly consistent. So naturally, Manchester United want 50 million and they say it's dropped anyway from January when the price was 60 million or more.
Yeah.
Then you have Chelsea who are saying 30, 35 million because you need to sell. Then you have Man United who counter and say, didn't you just do a deal for Noni Madueke to Arsenal for 48 million and 4? There's no way Garnacho should be significantly less than Noni Madueke. And it goes back and forth and back and forth. And of course, eventually they'll find a compromise. So I have no doubt if Chelsea get their outgoings in a row, that this deal will still likely get done. And I think the clubs will just end up meeting somewhere in the middle, maybe above 40 million with the add-ons, but under 40 million. And Man United possibly with a sell-on. And then naturally, United can bill it as somewhere close to 50. Chelsea can bill it as somewhere close to 40. And the reason why I suspect that is because that's what we had with João Pedro, where the Chelsea perspective is we're not going to share the fee on this one, but it's in excess of 50 million. And the Brighton perspective on João Pedro was we're not going to share the fee on this one, but it's actually a lot closer to 60 million. And it's just a way of both clubs making sure they position the final number in a way that sits well, optically speaking. And that's what I think, that 40 to 50 million will end up being the final package. Chelsea will say it's a steal. Man United will say they stuck to their valuation. Everyone wins because Garnacho only wants Chelsea.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think there's going to end up being, as you say, this happy medium in the middle there, and I'm sure that will happen. Obviously, Rasmus is another player that could be leaving Manchester United. Has there been any progression around that, Ben?
Sorry, who was that?
Rasmus Højlund.
Rasmus Højlund, Milan. I think he's become open to the move, and as a consequence, we have a situation now where the players sort of changed his position a little bit, because obviously what he said publicly, he was genuine about. And I think it's quite refreshing in many ways, because you have a player that's in love with Man United that wants to fight for the badge. He knows his pathway is going to be difficult, but he still wants to try. And I think fans can get behind that, regardless of whether they're pro or anti Højlund on the football field. But of course, you have Benjamin Sesko, Joshua Zirkzee, who's highly valued because he's versatile. And then on top of that, you have a scenario where both Brian Mbeumo and Matheus Cunha could actually end up playing as a number 9. So if you think about pecking order, Rasmus Højlund could actually be number 5 all of a sudden, due to the versatility of some of the other players at the football club. And Man United have told him that privately, and Højlund has softened a little bit, I'm told. So the perfect scenario for him is to stay at Man United, fight for his place, win everybody over. But he realizes maybe now that it's going to be difficult to get minutes and pathways, and it's a World Cup year. So he has become more open to Milan. And Milan are looking to do a loan with a buy option. Maybe that's why Højlund is open to it, because he would still have to agree to the buy option. Same for Marcus Rashford when he was at Aston Villa. I don't think it will be pre-agreed with the player that if they trigger the buy option, it's a done deal. I think he'll wait. And if they take the buy option, if the move comes off, he'll decide at the end of the season. So maybe Højlund thinks, I'll go and play every week for Milan, or anywhere else, if it's another club, I'll score a load of goals. Man United will change their mind and I'll come back to the club that I love. And if that happens, I think the fans will look and they'll say, well, wait a minute, he's on fire now. Maybe he deserves another go. So it's kind of win-win for everyone. It's a try before you buy for Milan. It's a play and then maybe change Manchester United's mind for Rasmus Højlund. And then, of course, if it all goes well from Manchester United's point of view and an option is taken, then they break even. And that's the very clever thing in all of this, that Manchester United want 40 million now for Rasmus Højlund, or if it's a loan, a 40 million package, roughly. And Milan have been very clever because their offer is 4 million for the loan fee, pounds, and 39 million for the buy option. Total 43 million. Why is that significant? Because in exactly a year's time, when Rasmus Højlund has got 2 years left, the book valuation is exactly 43 million. So what Manchester United are being told by Milan is we'll go above your 40 million number in the hope that you'll do it as a loan, not a permanent transfer, with only a buy option. And if we take that buy option and you add it to the loan fee, when you sell him, you get more than your 40 million and you break even. And that's kind of where we're at the moment. So this is the situation. There is a possibility that Højlund goes, but make no mistake, he wasn't just saying those public comments to sort of play politics. His number one priority would be to basically be the starting Manchester United striker and be loved and adored by everyone at Old Trafford. But it looks very difficult that he's going to get opportunities. And I still wouldn't discount a Højlund exit between now and the end of the window.
Makes a great deal of sense. Viewers, 4,500 people watching. Get the like button hit for us if you haven't remembered to do that so far. Whether you're on your device, your computer, your television, get that like button hit. Get this shit.